Now this particular one is a hybrid, kind of a crossover SUV. People are always arguing over what they actually are, but to me they're kind of a crossover SUV. This one is a hybrid. You can see it came from CarMax. As we look under here, put the old flashlight on, you can see it's all-wheel drive. It's got rear drives and front drives. If you really want the truth about Venza, it's basically a Toyota Camry SUV. And they share all kinds of stuff. And to me, it's only logical. Why not make a Camry SUV? People like Camrys, but they say I want an SUV. Well, get a Venza. It's a Camry SUV. So it's reliable, but it gets great gas mileage. You can get between 40 and 45 miles a gallon on the highway. And if you're wondering, this dirt was put on here deliberately because they're Hindus. And they want to keep from getting in accidents. So they put different symbols on different parts. If you notice, in the side view mirrors, this isn't the result of wild children in mud. Turmeric. It definitely is. You can taste it. As you go under the hood, got a 4-cylinder gasoline engine. It has the electric motor and battery system. Now, it's not a plug-in hybrid. It's a normal hybrid. It's made to get better gas mileage and to boost the power a little because, of course, Americans all want to go fast, so they want to have an SUV that's got zip. And if you've been in any of the Camrys, they got the same zip because it's the same platform, basically. Just different metal on the top to make it into an SUV. If anybody knows how to build a hybrid car, it's definitely Toyota. Go inside. Right, now it's running. We can see it has all kinds of electronic controls. Traction control off if you want. You can even put it in EV mode if you want to drive a short distance in electric mode. But this isn't a plug-in hybrid, so you're not going to go that far. You can only drive up to 25 miles an hour in electric mode, and won't go very far. Last one I tried, I got about 1.5 miles, then turned the motor back on. The batteries are not made to propel the car. They're a boost system. Of course, it sounds solid like a Camry. You can see the seats are very comfortable. A lot of room, leg room in the back. It's rather smallish trunk. It is more or less a compact crossover. It's got a panoramic view system to look around when you're driving. You can play around with different views, of course. Since it can be driven in electric mode and be quiet, it makes this kind of space-age sound that you're going down the road. Now, it might confuse some people. They might think that there's like angels coming to get them or something. I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me. Here come the angels, look out! They're coming to get you. Your time on Earth is over. And like any hybrid system, it shows you what's going on with the battery and the engine and the drive wheels. So basically, you're getting a compact SUV crossover Toyota Camry. Everybody knows how dependable they are. It's just the problem with the SUV market is it is cramped with so many different types of vehicles. There's so much competition. It's a hard sell in the market. That's why they stopped making these, but then they decided, oh, that's a mistake. People want Camry SUVs, and they went back to making them. Now, he's got 50,000 miles on it. He wants to see what kind of shape it's in, so do I, so we get the old computer out. It's a hybrid, but it's got the same OBD plug normal car has. So we'll swipe down, swipe up, and while it's doing its thing, there's some more turmeric here, sitting on a steering wheel. Okay, it's a Venza HV, North America. Needs to know a lot of information here. The Venza HV 2021, and yes, so soon we'll be into diagnosis mode. Now it's 100% done. We got a few minor flaws here. We'll see. Tire pressure monitor, okay. It has the tire pressure monitor transmitter ID is 3 is missing. So number 3 is missing, meaning that one of the tire sensors has gone bad or the battery's gone bad. Power window switch on left rear door fault. Staging left is still working. Now I've seen people where they'll be holding it too long. If you hold it too long, it'll trip a stupid code like that. So we're going to erase it and then road test, see if any of it comes back. And he's worried since it's a hybrid, so we'll look at some of the hybrid data. A lot of information in these hybrids. Look at that. Make your head spin. Now I push the button on, you got to get used to it. You don't hear anything because the hybrid mode's going. Here comes the noise. We're backing up. We should got a good backup sight. Even though we got sun glaring in our eyes, we can still see it. You can see his average there. He's getting 45.1 miles a gallon. Pretty good gas mileage for an SUV especially. Now you see as soon as we got around 20, the motor kicked in. You can't go that far in electric stuff alone. Got nice handling here. I have to say it's one of the better handling SUVs I've been in. It's regenerating electricity. There it is. Shows you it's regenerating now. We're slowing down. It does slow down a little when you take your foot off the gas, but it's nothing like one of those Teslas that you take your foot off the gas and it really starts slowing down. It kind of freaks you out. This is relatively normal. it's not outrageous. So I take my foot off the gas. It slows down gradually, but it's not like a Tesla that will come to a jerking halt. You still have to use the brakes to completely stop. And here we go to the little drag strip in the sky. We'll see how much energy this 4-cylinder engine with an electric motor boost has. We can see there's nobody behind us. Here we go. It picks them up and puts them down pretty good. Now I do have to say that the CVT transmission, I road tested one of the new Subaru Outbacks, and it had a CVT transmission in it. Really had a better shiftability to it. Now technically they don't shift gears, it's pretending anyways, but I like that Subaru CVT better than this one, because when you floor this, you can hear it's revving high the whole time until you take your foot off the gas. But with the Subaru, it was more like a regular automatic transmission. I actually like the Subaru CVT much better than this. It certainly tracks down the road good. It's swerving itself by itself. I let go. Look, it's driving itself down the road. See? It's following the road by itself. Watch what happens when it goes over. See? It steered itself. I don't know if I'd trust that in regular driving, but there's not too many people on this road and it's not that fast. Just out of curiosity, let's see what it does on this curve. Nobody's coming. Let's see if it steers. It's steering the curve. Look, all by itself. Let's see what it does on the other side though. It's going to hit that tree, or is it going to... Now it's going to hit the tree. It didn't work too good the other way. Like I say, I don't trust those things. Me, I keep my hands on the wheel, or at least one hand on the wheel. I'm filming with the other one at the present moment. You can't hear much with the road noise, but there are speakers on the outside of the car making that noise. You can see now the battery is boosting the acceleration. If I take my foot, it'll go the other way. Take my foot off, now the battery's recharging. You want to give it a little gas, this thing's fun to drive. I got the window open for some air, and hey, it's a fun little SUV to drive around. It's kind of like my wife's Matrix on steroids. So there you have it, the Toyota Venza. This one's a hybrid. The Toyota Camry of SUVs. It's a very crowded segment. They stopped making them, then they started making them again. I think they made a mistake not making them and then starting again. They should have just kept making them. If somebody wants a vehicle this size, could run virtually forever. I've seen Camry hybrids with 350,000 miles on them that were still running fine. Not a hybrid fan myself, but Toyota makes the best hybrids out there as far as I'm concerned. You only get that kind of gas mileage in an SUV. That's basically the only way you can go. They're not too aerodynamic, and to get 45 miles a gallon on the highway on one of these things, it's kind of a minor miracle for something that's as zippy and fun to drive as this thing is. Now, being a hybrid, he averages like 46 miles a gallon, this thing. Now, he likes Camry. This is his third Camry, and you might say, 3 Camrys. How come he keeps changing them? Well, he drives so many miles into things, he has to. Eventually, things will wear out. He didn't personally feel secure with a car once it had more than 350,000 miles, so the other 2 he sold on to people, but he sold them on to people that would get more than 500,000 miles out of them. 4-cylinder engine. Very dependable. The hybrid system, sold millions of them. They work quite well. This one now's 130-something thousand miles. It's still got the original hybrid battery. That works perfectly fine. The engine doesn't burn any oil. Now, you might wonder why he has these crappy rims. Here's my old Matrix. Nice. Oh, look at those crappy rims. He's got them all over the place. Why? He's got his winter tires on this. He lives in parts of Ontario where it snows a lot. So he keeps the snow tires on, the cheap steel rims. Who cares? He didn't even put hubcaps on them, if you notice. He's got his snow tires on. He's not going to get stuck anywhere. Now, this isn't 4-wheel drive. It's a 2-wheel drive vehicle. He decided to put all 4. I would have just put them on the front, but he wants to be safe for cornering, so he's got those ugly old rims that he got in a junkyard. But you might as well go to a junkyard and get used rims, stick your snow tires on them, and then you can do it yourself, not have to waste any money balancing, taking them off. That's going to cost you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars over the years. So you might as well buy a used rim and put snow tires on. Now, he loves the car. He's bought a whole bunch of them. And he said in Canada, where he is, taxi cab drivers, they're driving Camrys. And a lot of them are driving the hybrids because you might think it's bad here. Gasoline is even more expensive in Canada. They tax the heck out of it. My father used to have a gas station on the Canadian border in Lewiston, New York. Canadians used to come there all the time and fill their cars up when they were on a holiday, or even if they weren't, to save a whole bunch of money. The whole thing is kind of hilarious when you think of it, because I had a Ford Maverick, right? I bought it in the United States. It was made in Oakville, Ontario, and the Canadians paid thousands of dollars more for that same car that I had in the United States because they taxed them more there. It was made in Oakville by Canadians, drove the heck out of that car, but I got it much cheaper than what the Canadians paid for in their own country where it was built. Look at this horrible seat. Well, that's just the seat cover. He didn't want to wear out the beautiful seats, so he put this seat cover on and it's all worn out. Yeah. Now, like I say, this is a hybrid, so you don't hear anything yet, but I lie. Listen, you can hear the noise it makes because it has to. The law says it has to make a sound when in electric mode. There it is, humming away. Now, as with most hybrids, people want to get great gas mileage. You can put in various modes. Eco mode, normal, sport. If you just drive an eco, of course, you get the best gas mileage. Now, I do have to say, he went a little overkill with the air fresheners. There they are, a whole row of them. Well, I'll put it in sport mode here, and let's see what's going to do. Here we go. Not a race car, but hey, it gets some pickup and going, especially once you start moving. And it doesn't like me because I went into the lane without putting my turn signal in. So the collision avoidance system beeps. Here we go again. It doesn't shake the wheel or anything, but it beeps to warn you. Even though it's pouring rain, you don't hear or feel anything because it's just sitting there, because it's a hybrid. Now see, this isn't like the auto on-off system. It's a hybrid. It's running on the hybrid system. And the car doesn't like me because I keep swerving over. There we go again. It doesn't like me. I'll tell you, if it was my car, I'd disconnect that too. Now, why do people buy these vehicles? Because they're humongous. They're four-wheel drive with a V8 engine that can run forever. Yes, they get horrible gas mileage, but anything that big will. That's just the way that it goes. It has 251,000. He put 151,000 himself on it. He bought it used. Paid 14 grand back then. And if you would have had a crystal ball, no one would have thought that today a new one of these would be $90,000. Yes, indeed. That's why he's keeping this one. As we look inside, he's got some decent seat covers. Things do wear out over time. And of course, there's lots of room. The seats go back. The original wheels on it. Now, it's been a Maryland car, as you can see. Now, he wants me to check the undercarriage, which we're going to do a little bit later, see what kind of shape it's in. There's definitely superficial rust, but these things are pretty solid made. You can hear that's solid, but it's got superficial rust. Personally, something like this, well, it depends what the rest of it looks like, but I would probably have it all sandblasted down, primed, and then coated. But realize this was a Maryland car the whole time. If it had been a Massachusetts car, or a Michigan car, or wherever, with assaults on the road all the time, it probably would be beyond repair unless you wanted to do a frame-off restoration, because they will rot. Superficial rust like this, not that bad to do with. But he even found a guy locally that will rebuild these frames. This particular one, they don't have the kit for yet. They probably will at some point in time, but for a lot of the Tundras and stuff, you can get kits, and you get guys that are pretty good at what they're doing if you do have a rusted out frame, because these are actual frame vehicles. They're not unibody construction, which then you pretty much say goodbye car. This didn't look bad yet. We'll check out more later, but we'll go under the hood. So we'll look under. Here's why people buy them, an I-Force 4.7 liter V8 engine, 200-something thousand miles, doesn't burn any oil. Now, it is an interference engine. He has had the timing belt and the water pump replaced. You don't want to have the timing belt break and destroy the engine, because really, all this mileage, it still doesn't burn oil. These engines have an immaculate lifespan, which is why I detest that Toyota took them out of their Tundras and put in the twin turbo V6, which they have had problems. I forecasted there's problems, and there was problems. Now, these don't really have problems. And as I've told people many times, it's all BS. Don't listen to this hype about EPA gas mileage. Got a customer in Tennessee. He bought the Tundra with the V6 twin turbo. Guess what? He gets worse gas mileage in that than he did in his old V8 because he pulls weight. A V6 engine is not made for pulling weight. You can get horsepower out of it, but turbos, ramming the air in, having to shift up higher, you're going to get horrible gas mileage. So it's actually worse gas mileage than these. And these are gas hogs to begin with. You get a big heavy vehicle, you're pulling something, you're going to get bad gas mileage. Don't live in la-la land. There's no free lunch. You're always going to have to pay for having a heavy vehicle that can pull a lot of weight. AC still works. You can see just about everything on this, other than the battery that's Sears. It's pretty much still the original equipment. These things are really well made. You can see from the front, as the saying goes, they don't make them like they used to. The new ones don't have these coolers on them. Toyota says they don't need them. Well, then why did they need them in the first place, right? They're going more for planned obsolescence. They learned from the Americans, you don't make something that goes 1,000,000 miles, you won't sell that many of them, right? These transmissions are going to last a long time because they have extra coolers on them. They just don't put them on now because it's cheaper to make them that way. That's just the truth. They're just giving you a line of baloney. Oh, it weighs less with that cooler, you know. Hey, don't ever listen to them. Just follow the money. And the money means it costs money to put a transmission cooler in. And if you're pulling weight with a V8 engine, you're better off with an extra transmission cooler. So let's get on my big scan tool and see what's cooking inside the electronics. Here we go. Set the Autel here. It's old, so we're going to do manual input. And personally, I like it because check out the four-wheel drive. Look, it's an actual shifter where you put it in. Four-wheel low, neutral, or four-wheel high. Not a bunch of computer crap. Something you pull with your hand that is not going to break. Even the ones with electric motors. The electric motors break. This is very simple. You shift it yourself. I was thinking you could see he had a nice Sony interface. He got rid of the original crazy CD player stuff and has modernized it. There's plenty of stuff for all these Toyotas to modernize them yourself. And we have Sequoia, North America. Oh, but it lets us do topology, so here we go. Now, normally you can't do the CAN topology on an old car like this. Shows how high-tech these things were, even back in 2004. Kind of slow because it's old. It's 44% done now. While we're waiting, we'll just look around. Big old sunroof. Like I said, tons of space. Nice stereo system, especially since he added the Sony stuff. A change holder. I didn't know people even had change anymore. Touch of the armrest. It's not just some center thing you got to lean on. It's got actual armrest. And while we're waiting, we'll start her up. Typical Toyota starts right up. All right, and the only codes we see are for the brake system. Oh, look at the trouble codes. See what they are. ABS control system fault and a stroke sensor. Fascinating stuff. When this code is memorized, there is no malfunction in the skid control ECU. Okay, so it's got a crazy communication code, but it says there's no fault in the system. His light never came on, and he never had any problems. Okay, this thing is what? It's 20 years old now. You really don't expect those systems to act perfectly, but he's had no problem skidding, no problem with the brakes locking up, so something like that. We'll memorize this, keep an eye on it for future considerations, but when it tells you it doesn't affect it, do you really care? And we'll start her up again. And now we'll go to the main data here, the ECM. Maybe old, but it's got a reasonable amount of data here. It's in closed loop like it should. Now the long-term fuel trim of 1 is adding a little bit of fuel. And the long-term fuel trim of 2 is adding a little bit less fuel. You're never going to have perfection in something this old. It's only off by like 0.5%, so it's not that big of a deal. I can feel a slight rolling in the idle. He doesn't care. It runs good enough. He could put some fuel injector cleaner. That might fix it. You could have a really, really tiny leak in the intake system. Just a little tiny vacuum leak somewhere. No big deal. Yes, airflow sensor stable. As you can see, okay, the fuel trim, it's 99.15. 100's perfect. So it's off 0.85. No big deal. Misfires, you can see they're all zeros. 1 through 8. So let's take it for a spin. How's you, my dad? Good thing the AC's working. No backup camera, of course. It's an old car. A giant Sequoia, like a tree. Well, it's going to go over this bump rather easily. He did put Monroe quick struts on it. I'm not a big fan. They seem to wear out fast over time. He just did it, so it should ride pretty good over these bumps. And it is, because it's a big, heavy vehicle. Realize that. I'm just not a fan of those quick struts. They're cheaper made and they tend to wear out too fast. So we get to our little realm here. It's a heavy vehicle. You do have to push on the brakes to stop it. It's not going to stop like a little light car, but here goes the big V8 engine. Makes a lot of noise. Shifts fine and it takes off. Not a race car, but hey, race cars weigh a lot less than this thing does. Still runs strong. Plenty of pickup. Doesn't burn oil. And it handles the curves good enough. Something that's just tall up in the air. The four-wheel drive system still works perfectly fine. Obviously does a lot of turning because he's got a spinner here. Hey, look, it works pretty good too, I gotta say. Hey, I ought to get myself one of these. As you can see, it's got a lot of miles on it. 252,000 and counting. See and hear, and I can feel I still got a lot of life in it. Doesn't burn oil. Shifts fine. Now he wanted me to check out the front end for rust and stuff, so put on the old parking brake. Turn it off. You see rust. But that's relatively superficial. Any of the bare steel parts, if they do start to crack, you gotta replace them. And in the case of this, people will just replace the entire lower control arm assembly if they have a problem. The main problem with this is going to be the bushings will go out. And if the bushings finally wear out on these, heck, you just buy the whole control arm assembly with the bushings, bolt them off, bolt them on. Don't try fixing them, just replace the whole thing. But you can see, the cross member's still solid. Now, here's a big rust bucket here. Right, it's all rusted. Well, that's just a stupid pan cover. It's just a cover. The transfer case, everything, bone dry, no leaks. When you look at the actual frame, you can see. Okay, solid. I would have that sandblasted and primed and then coated. I'd do the whole thing. And if the lower control arms eventually started to have some kind of problems with the bushings or they were getting pit holes in them, then I'd replace the lower control arms. That's the main thing that wears out. You notice the upper control arms are pretty clean because they're up in the air. This gets all the splash and crud. Usually doesn't make it up that high. So there you have it. A Sequoia, like the ancient Sequoias, is aging quite well. Yeah, they're gas hogs. It's just the way that it goes. The frame's still in good shape. Everything on this is replaceable. Let's say eventually the lower control arms do rust and break, or the bushings crack and they start rattling around. Since the new one's 90 grand, a few $100s for parts here and there doesn't sound all that bad, does it? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.